Okay. All right. What's up, everybody?
Hi.
We're back with another week. I know it's late. Sorry. It's been a long day. Work. Life. You know. Okay. So, this week's topic is a follow-up of last week, but with our partners. So, we had a suggestion where we should get our partners involved in this channel more often, and this is the first step to that. There was talk that there's not a lot of visibility for partners of trans people, and people don't talk about it often, and so we want to talk about their experiences through everything that we're going through. Even though it's our journey, they're on this journey with us, and so giving their perspective can maybe help somebody going through the same thing. So, question number 1. And this isn't going to be like a formal like question answer. So basically, I have a few set questions, and wherever her tangents take her, that's where she's going with it. Her opinion is of her own, and if that helps you, then fantastic. If you don't agree, then also fantastic. Everybody deals with things differently, and so everybody's obviously going to have different situations when it comes to these things. So, number 1, what's your name, your pronouns, and your sexuality?
My name is Morgan. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I identify as a lesbian, but I add the label homoflexible to that, which, if you don't know, means that I typically go for the same sex, but that can change like under some circumstances, even though it's pretty rare.
Okay. Good. Great. Awesome. So, did you have any inkling that I was trans?
Yes, it was on your dating profile.
Okay, how did we meet?
On her.
Okay. So you knew right off the bat.
Yeah.
Did that sway you one way or the other?
No. It didn't really have any kind of effect.
You're going to have to talk louder. It's not going to be able to hear you.
Hi! It didn't really have any effect either way. I don't know. I was open to it.
Okay. What is your favorite part about my transition?
I think it's how much more confident you've grown to be. Being here the past, I've known you for a little over 10 months now, and I've been dating you for 9. So in that time I've seen you, I don't know, in that time you've gotten top surgery and you've like had your dosage increased and things like that. So those are definitely things that have boosted your confidence and helped you feel like you're more in a place where you want to be in your transition. So I don't know, it's really cool seeing you like take your shirt off when we go to the pool, and like hearing your voice get deeper and you talking about it and feeling better about it, and you know, I don't know, I just like seeing how much more confident you've been with the changes that have happened in the time we've been together.
Okay. What's your least favorite thing about my transition?
Least favorite. Probably, I guess I would say getting used to you changing your dosage. I don't know, it wasn't like awful, but you've had your dosage increased twice in the time that we've been together. And both times there have been some like adjustments, and your mood has been a little off, and you've had to adjust to like the new influx of hormones in your body. So that was a little rough at times. Not totally, but just at times. I could tell that you would get stressed more easily, you would get anxious more easily. You would just be more down than you usually are sometimes. So now, since your last increase, which was, what, like a month and a half, 2 months ago, something like that?
Probably like a month.
I feel like now you're starting to even out more. And I feel like it's been easier since then. I don't know, it's just hard, like, knowing that it's just a part of the process and that there's not really anything that I can do about it to fix it. I mean, I can be there for you and talk to you about it and whatever, but at the end of the day, like, it's just something hormonal within you, and it just has to happen. You just kind of have to ride the wave. So it's been a little bit tough, but I wouldn't say there are a lot of, like, negatives to your transitions, like, in regards to our relationships. Like, there aren't a lot of, like, that was kind of a hard one to come up with.
Okay. Is there anything that you wish you knew coming into this relationship and jumping into the middle of my transition that you didn't know before but you know now?
I wish I knew how different every person's journey is. Because before I dated you, I didn't like assume that everybody was like cookie cutter necessarily, but like, I don't know, I kind of just had this idea in my head, even though I've had trans friends and I've dated another trans person before. I just like had this idea in my head that all experiences were like pretty similar, and they're definitely not. Your experience is unlike anybody else's that I've ever seen, and the things that trigger you and bother you and give you dysphoria are completely different things than other people, and you want different things than other people, and I just kind of like wish I knew that before, because it kind of took me like finding out a little bit to realize that, and I wish that I would have just kind of had common sense and known that.
Is there anything besides that somebody going into a relationship or that's in a relationship with somebody who wants to transition, you would say to them without them asking for the advice? Like, they came to you and said, like, oh, hey, the person I'm with or the person I'm talking to is transitioning or wants to transition. Is there something that you would say, like, to them?
I would say learn a lot about your partner and pay attention to everything in the beginning. Because, like I said, I learned that every person is completely different. And so I had to really pay attention to you and learn what triggers you and what upsets you and what things I can do to help you. Because it's a situation that I don't understand, because I'm, not in the same position that you are, and I haven't gone through that. And so it's kind of one of those things that you just really have to pay attention. You have to take note of the things that make them feel really, really good and the things that make them feel really bad. And at least from what you tell me, I haven't done anything awful to make you feel too bad. I'm pretty weary of that at all times. I try and be really careful not to like trigger him or upset him, but I've been there for the times where other people have triggered him or upset him, and I try and do certain things to, I don't know, just make you feel validated. And I know that most of the time I think you do, and I don't think there's like a lot of times where you feel invalidated with me, but I try and just like continue to like prove that anyway, and like make that a point to just show you that that's really important to me, that you feel validated with me. So I would say do that.
If we broke up, would you consider dating another trans person?
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be kind of hard, to be honest, because I don't know, after everything we've been through together, like, it would be weird, like, doing that for another person, like, taking care of another person after surgery and giving another person shots. And for anybody that doesn't know, I'm a nursing major, so I, do all that stuff for him, and I'm sure girlfriends that aren't nursing majors do too, but that's something that I have always, like, done for you, and that's been, like, a big part of our relationship almost, I think. Like, me taking care of you after surgery, I think, really had a big impact on our relationship and brought us closer than we ever would have been if you hadn't had surgery at that point or ever. So I think it would be really, really hard to share that with somebody else. But I think I would be open to trying. But I don't know. I think it would, I don't know, it would be weird.
Just for the record, everybody, it would be weird, or no was the answer I was looking for. But that's not the answer I got, so you were all here to witness that. Yeah. Great. Okay. So, the answer I was really looking for was, no, we're never going to break up, but,
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
now
yeah. She's trying to save herself.
Stop.
Yeah.
I don't ever want that. I don't want to
Okay.
ever find out if I could date another trans person.
That's not what she said the first time.
I love you.
So, is there anything that you would say to the parents of somebody who's trans,
Somebody who's trans.
accepting or not?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say the same thing that I said in regards to the relationship. It's a different dynamic, but you really have to pay attention to your kid and figure out, like, what they need, because you're parents. Like, nobody can ever replace you. Like, you've raised them since they were a kid, and, you need to do everything you can to pay attention to them and figure out what they need from you. And not only do you need to pay attention to what they say and do, but you need to, like, get involved and start the conversations with them as well, because if they're anything like Kaiden, you have to force it out of them. Am I wrong?
Put me on blast.
So, if you have to drill them every once in a while to get some kind of information out of them, sometimes you're gonna have to do it. Sometimes I really have to kick his ass to get him to tell me how he's feeling. And as a parent, you're gonna have to do that too, because you want to talk to your mom about your feelings even less than you would have to talk to me about them. So, as a parent, you're gonna have to do that too, whether your kid's a minor and they're still living at home, or if they're older, like, that's something that you're just gonna have to do. And sometimes they might hate it and they might not want to talk about it, but, like, at the end of the day, they're gonna know that you care, and that's gonna go a long way with them, I would think.
Feelings are stupid. I hate them. So there's that.
We know.
What would you say to some kid whose parents, one parent or both parents, or are going to transition or are in the process of transitioning and they're struggling with it?
A kid whose parents is transitioning? Honestly, I would say, what does it matter? I mean, I guess that's, like, easier for me because I wouldn't struggle with that. I mean, it would be a change and it would be strange for a while to get used to that, just because it would be a shock because my parents are...
Yep. Okay,
next. Yeah. So, I don't know, it's hard for me to imagine and put myself in that position, but I don't know, I would just say talk to them about it, understand their feelings about it, understand that it doesn't have to change your relationship with them. They're still your parent at the end of the day. They still raised you from the day you were born, and it's going to take some getting used to, and I'm sure it's going to be weird and hard and strange and shocking and all kinds of things, possibly, but they're your parent. And you gotta do what you gotta do, and you gotta work through it, and eventually it will be second nature to you to use the right pronouns and to say the right name, or to start calling them mom or dad or vice versa, whatever. You just gotta get through that hard part, and it'll get better, and then it'll be second nature.
The last question I have for you is, dun, dun, dun. Since our relationship has started, you said that you identified as a flexible lesbian. Since our relationship has started, have you struggled with your label? Have other people made you feel invalidated in your identity with your label that you chose? And how did you cope, or do you cope with those?
To be honest, in the beginning, I really struggled a lot. Like when we first started talking and we weren't dating, a little bit of background information, I didn't identify as a homoflexible lesbian before I met him. I just identified as a lesbian, and so for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years before I met him, I only dated women. So I struggled with it a lot because I was really afraid of like what people back home would think, and because right now I was up at college when we started dating. So I was really worried about like what people would think, because I have had to convince people for years that I'm serious, because normally, we went to a baseball game today, so I didn't, but normally I have a full face of makeup on, I'm super girly, I do my hair, that kind of thing, like I'm pretty femme, so it was really hard to convince people, and I had dated men in the past, so it was really hard to convince people that I was serious. So I was really worried about people thinking that, like, A, I was lying, or B, that, I don't know, that I turned straight or something, and I was thinking about, like, other lesbians, like, judging me, because I know that happens in the community, like, when somebody who identifies as a lesbian then comes out as bisexual or pansexual or whatever, or gets a boyfriend, like, it's this big, like, thing, and people, I don't know, it's just, like, a big thing with lesbians. So I was worried about all of that, and I remember the day that I made it Facebook official, and I got messages from people, and they were all like, wait, what? Because, like, nobody, like, knew, and, I mean, not that you being trans makes a difference, like, they were confused either way, but, they didn't know, so they just, like, saw all of a sudden Morgan's dating some guy, and they were like, where did that come from? So, yeah, it was, like, really kind of scary that first day when I put it on Facebook, because I was just, like, expecting everybody to judge me, because I have been in that place before. I have seen a lesbian, I have seen, like, ex-girlfriends of mine start dating men, and I'm like, I've been that judgmental person. I have, and that's sucky to admit, and sucky that I felt that way, but obviously now I'm in a much better understanding, and, like, I'm not in that place to judge anybody for that, and that was stupid and immature, but I don't know, I was just afraid of all those feelings, and even now, like, I still kind of feel like my lesbian card has been revoked, and it's really weird, because when I talk to people, like, I had my landlord come in here at one point, and I was talking about how I had trouble finding a roommate last year, because I was a lesbian, and then in the same conversation I was telling him about my boyfriend, and so it's just, like, that weird dynamic, and it's just, like, too much to explain to people, so I'm just, like, whatever. But, I don't know, it's just, like, really weird. It wasn't really weird to get used to, like, having a boyfriend, but it was weird to get used to, like, saying I'm a lesbian that has a boyfriend, if that makes sense. And I still, like, struggle with it sometimes, because I still worry about, like, what people say about me back home, because I'm, like, from a small town, and, like, I'm one of few queers in my town. So, I don't know, like, worry what people say about me, but I guess I've gotten a lot better with it lately. I don't really think about it as much. This being, like, Pride Month, it was a little bit, like, I thought about it more, just because gay stuff everywhere thrown in my face, which is, like, great, don't get me wrong, but, I don't know, just, like, made me think about it more, but, like, we went to Pride in New York last weekend, and I don't know, like, before, like, you took your shirt off at one point, but, like, before you took off your shirt, I was thinking, like, I don't know, it's weird because I look straight here. Like, we're a cis-passing couple, and nothing looks weird about us. And, like, obviously, like, I know it's pride, and, like, people know that, like, either one of us is LGBT or both, or we're allies or whatever. But, like, it was still just, like, weird not being, like, so openly queer, because I'm used to, like, I don't know, I'm not used to it anymore, but I used to be used to holding hands with a girl walking down the street and everybody knowing very obviously that I was queer. So it's like weird people not knowing now. And like, you're very open about it, but like, so like people that know me or you or both of us like know, but people that see us on the street like have no idea. So it's just like a weird dynamic. Because I just like feel like, I don't know, I don't like need people to know that I'm queer, but like, it used to be a huge part of my identity, and now I feel like it's kind of like lost somewhere a little bit. I don't know. Sorry, I'm really rambling.
That's okay.
It's a tough subject sometimes.
Okay, do you think people should have to change their labels when they get in a relationship with somebody who's trans?
This is another thing that I used to like judge people for, because I remember like one particular girl on my Instagram started dating this trans guy. I don't know her personally. I just like followed her, and she would still call herself a lesbian and like all this stuff, and I'm like, that's so disrespectful to your partner. Like that's so invalidating. All this stuff, and I was like, why wouldn't you like change your label? And then I started dating a trans person, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't like change anything. I still feel the way that I feel, and there's just kind of this exception to my romantic feelings. Like usually 99% of the time it's towards cis women, but there's this other small part of me that, you know, can experience attraction to other types of people, and but it's not big enough to call myself bisexual or pansexual. And I always thought that it would be so easy to just change your label, and I was like, why wouldn't that girl change her label for her boyfriend? But like, that's a part of you. It's not something that you can just like, you know, if it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right. So, I don't know, we've talked about it a lot, and I've kind of come to the realization that like I don't need to feel guilty for still identifying as a lesbian. And I know that if I chose to identify solely as a lesbian, you wouldn't have a problem with it, and you understand that, you know, I don't not see you as a man in any way. I don't think our relationship is invalid or anything like that. It's just kind of an exception to the rule and a weird fluke in the universe, and the best fluke in the world, but still just not something that I ever thought was going to happen, but here we are, and it's just, we always say exception to the rule. There's always exceptions to any rule, and this is the same thing. But I have added the label homoflexible to the front of lesbian because, I don't know, I think it's an important identifier, and I think it's true. I think that if we were to ever stop dating for some awful reason, I would probably go back to dating women for the most part, just because they're more readily available than other types of people. There are lots of women in the world, cis women, but I don't know, I could also see myself with like a trans woman or a non-binary person, or, you know, anything like that. So I don't know, I think that's like an important identifier too, and I think that at first I think I just added it to like make me feel less guilty about identifying as a lesbian, but I think since then I've really started to identify it, and it's become like a part of the label that I don't want to exclude, because I think it's important.
I think that's good.
Me too.
That was a good answer.
I didn't think I'd ever feel that way in the beginning. I was like, I'm only doing this because I feel guilty, and I like don't want to invalidate you, even though I know you don't feel that way, but I feel like in my mind I am. And oh, hold on, let me add to this before we're done, sorry. A lot of other people feel like it's really invalidating. And I understand, because I felt like that too with other people before I was put in this situation. I was like, why would you call yourself a lesbian when you're dating a man? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But now I totally 100% understand, and like some people like that I'm friends with on Facebook or that I'm friends with from high school like will like share things about it, or they'll tweet things about it or whatever. Things like if you're dating a trans guy and you call yourself a lesbian, then like you're an awful girlfriend, and like all these things. Like somebody that I know shared something like that. And it like kind of hit me hard, because like, I don't know, like I know in an ideal world, somebody who's trans might not want to be with somebody who identifies as a lesbian, but at the end of the day, if that makes you uncomfortable, then like you probably shouldn't date that person. It's probably not like a good fit. If it's that important to you, then I don't know, it's sucky that that's the way it is, but you can't make somebody change their label if that's something that they're not comfortable with, because I'm not bisexual, I'm not pansexual, I don't think I'm ever going to be. And if I am, then I'll use that label, but for the time being, for right now, this is how I feel, and I can't do anything about that. And it's not like I just do it in spite of you or anything. We've talked about it, and you're very okay with me using whatever label I need to use. And so for somebody to make that generalization and say that all girls who call themselves lesbians and date trans men are awful girlfriends, like, that kind of hurts. Like, that makes me feel really bad that, like, some people think that way. So.
And I think of it this way, it doesn't matter what she says, it's not going to make me any less trans. And the same thing as no matter what I say, it's not going to change her label. It's the same thing. And her label is her label, and my label is my label. And it's not my place to change her label or to force her to change her label because of what I'm going through. Yeah, we're on this journey together, but we are two separate identities that have our own feelings and thoughts and processes and ways of coping with things and likes and dislikes. And my label's my label, and I identify as a straight trans man, and her label is her label. We're together, and that her label doesn't invalidate me because her label isn't necessarily for her. We know that we love each other, and that's just for other people to begin to understand us queer folk. And I've always thought that about labels. I think they're stupid, and I think that if people don't want to understand us for who we are and just have none of that stuff matter, then they don't actually deserve to be in your life anyway. And so I would never make her change her label, and it doesn't bother me, and it's not invalidating to me. Even if she dropped the homo-flexible part, I don't care. There's exceptions to every rule, just like in grammar. It happens. It's a crazy messed up world with a lot of things going on. And it's 2018, so, like, get with the program. Labels are for other people, not for us.
Yeah.
We are who we are no matter what that label says, and we know it, especially being in the queer community.
I don't ever even tell people my label anymore unless I say something about, like, I make a joke about being gay, and then I'm like, my boyfriend, and then I'm like, oh, let me explain. It just makes sense more for other people.
Like, I know that I'm trans, and no matter where I go, I'm always going to know that I'm trans because this is my body and this is my journey, and I have to deal with this. But unless I outwardly express to people that I'm trans, they don't have to know. And that's for them to try to understand me better and what I'm doing and what my journey is. Not for me to understand who I am, because me understanding who I am is completely different than that. And I think that's a big thing that anybody dating somebody needs to know, or anybody who is trans needs to know, that you need to figure out what's okay within yourself, because then other people's decisions won't really affect you that much, especially something as trivial as a label.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, like, if you are a person who has a problem with dating somebody, like, if you're a trans man who has a problem with dating somebody who identifies as a lesbian, like, I understand that too. Like, that makes sense. And
you're completely fine having that feeling. Don't date them.
Yeah, don't try and make anybody change, because that's just gonna cause a bunch of problems. And at the end of the day, does it really matter? Like, does it really like?
And don't tell other people that that's invalidating to them, because you don't know what's invalidating to them. Every person's different, and what invalidates you may not completely invalidate somebody else. And because I'm pretty laid back in the things that really get to me, and most people are way more, like, high-strung about things that upset them, and I really just don't care. I don't have the energy for it. I'm past that time in my life where everything bothers me. And don't be completely disrespectful or a huge douchebag, and we're cool. Yeah. Her throat just made a really weird noise. So on that note, we're going to go. And we're going to go to bed because sleep is amazing. And I will see you guys next week.